After 12 years of working 60-hour weeks, skipping vacations, and saying no to every impulse purchase that could have derailed my savings, I finally got the keys to a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, nothing fancy, just solid. A place with enough space for peace and a backyard big enough to matter. I'm 34, no wife, no kids, just me, my work as a systems analyst, and a mortgage I could finally afford. The house felt like a trophy, not for show, but proof to myself that I'd made it on my own. But my story isn't just about hard work. It's about family. More specifically, my sister, Jenna. Jenna is 36, single mom of 3. Her life's been a string of storms, bad breakups, worse jobs, and a tendency to fall for men who vanish right after the baby arrives. I've stepped in more times than I can count. Rent? I covered it. Groceries? Weekly deposits, clothes for the kids, school supplies, field trip fees. I've been Santa Claus with a bank account. It wasn't out of guilt. I love my niece and nephews. They didn't choose this life. And Jenna, she always said she was trying. Just until I get back on my feet, she'd say. That phrase became a soundtrack to my adult life. Our parents never questioned it. In fact, they encouraged it. She's doing her best. Mom would insist. She's got 3 mouths to feed. Dad added more than once. When I gently asked if they could chip in more, they'd go silent. Then come the guilt lines. You don't know how hard it is being a single mom. I do, actually. I just don't advertise it. I know what it's like to carry other people's weight and never drop it. The balance had held for years. Me in my quiet house, them in their chaos. I'd send money. They'd send thank you texts. Everyone knew their role, but I didn't know, not yet, that they were planning to change mine. And not in a way I could have ever imagined. It was a Sunday evening. Jenna had asked if we could all do a family dinner at my place, just like old times, she said. I didn't think much of it. I made pot roast, mashed potatoes, even pulled out the good dishes my mom gave me last Christmas. Mom brought her usual oversalted green beans. Dad came with a 6-pack of some beer I don't drink, and Jenna showed up with the kids, each one more hyper than the last. It felt normal, familiar, chaotic, but in that family kind of way. I let the kids run around while the adults sat at the table, laughing about things from when we were young. For a moment, it was nice. Then dinner ended, plates pushed aside, Dad cleared his throat. So, he began, resting his elbows on the table. We've been talking, your mother and I. I nodded, sipping from my glass. Okay. Mom looked over, smiling like she was about to tell me I'd won a prize. We think it's time for Jenna and the kids to move in here. There's more space, better schools. You can go stay in your old room for a while, just until she settles. I blinked. The room tilted for a second. Wait, what? Jenna shifted in her seat but didn't speak. Dad continued like he was discussing the weather. It makes sense. She needs stability, and you've got this whole place to yourself. It's family. We help each other. I looked from one face to the next, searching for a punchline. None came? You're serious? Mom's smile faded just slightly. Of course. Think about it. The kids will finally have a backyard. You'll still be paying the mortgage anyway, and you won't be far. Your old room's still there. I'm not moving back into my childhood bedroom, I said flatly, trying to process what was happening. This is my house, Jenna finally spoke, voice low. It's not forever, just a year or so. You don't even use half the rooms. Like I owed her my silence, my home, my peace. I felt heat rise in my chest. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came, because it hit me. They weren't asking, they were informing me. A few days later, I found out Jenna had already been planning the move. I only noticed because I left my tablet on the coffee table and her daughter accidentally opened the photo app. There were dozens of pictures, shots of my guest room, my office, even my closet. I scrolled through in disbelief. Some had notes. Bunk beds here. Move desk to parents, paint over this color. I confronted her. You were planning this before the dinner? She didn't even flinch. Well, yeah, I needed to see how things would fit. It's not a big deal. I turned to my parents, hoping for backup. Mom just shrugged. She's got 3 kids to think about. Dad added, it's practical. Don't take it personally. Not take it personally? My home was being mapped out like a renovation project. My life, reassigned without my voice. I didn't say much. I couldn't. I just stood there, swallowing betrayal in silence, realizing they never saw this house as mine to begin with. I called a family meeting the next evening. No dinner, no small talk. I stood in my own living room, not Jenna's future playroom, not a family space, my home. I'm not leaving, I said firmly. This is my house. I worked for it, paid for it. I'm not moving back into my childhood bedroom so someone else can take over what I built. Silence. Then, like a switch flipped, Mom's eyes filled with tears, but she is children. How can you be so cold? Dad's face darkened. We raised you better than this. Family sacrifices, you know that. Jenna just shook her head. I can't believe you'd put a house before your own niece and nephews. I didn't raise my voice, didn't curse. I just stood there and let them hurl their guilt and shame like bricks. You're not being fair, I said. This isn't about kids, it's about control, and I'm done being the only one giving everything while getting nothing. They stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe, in that moment, I finally was. The next few weeks felt like psychological warfare. First came the calls, Mom, then Jenna, then Dad, voicemails full of sighs, soft, we just want what's best, or blunt lines like, think about the kids. Then came the drop-ins. Jenna would swing by, just passing through, with the kids in tow. They'd run around my house like it was already theirs, leaving juice boxes and toys behind. One night, I came home to find a box of kitchenware on my porch, a note in Jenna's handwriting. Won't fit in the car. Can we store this here for now? No question mark. But the final straw came in an email, a forwarded rental termination notice from Jenna's landlord. She's vacating at end of month, it read. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. She hadn't asked, she had decided. They all thought I'd fold, that I'd cave under guilt, the way I always had. But this time, I felt something shift. I was done being cornered. It was time to take control fully and finally. I asked them all to meet at my house. No dinner, no pretense. I've decided. I began to stop supporting Jenna financially. I'll give her 3 months. Month 1, I'll cover half. Month 2, a quarter. Month 3, nothing. The room exploded. Jenna shot up. What am I supposed to do? Throw my kids on the street? Mom burst into tears. You're punishing children. How can you live with yourself? Dad's voice was cold. You're turning your back on family. All that success is gone to your head. I stayed calm. No one asked me what I need. You just assumed I'd keep giving. But I'm not a bank. I'm a person. And I need boundaries. They kept talking, blaming, pleading. Like noise on a loop, but something inside me had gone quiet, clear. This wasn't cruelty, it was survival. After I drew the line, silence followed. No calls, no texts. Jenna went radio silent. My parents too. The house felt emptier than ever. No noise, no tension, just space. At first, it stung, not the quiet, but the message behind it. If I wasn't useful, I wasn't welcome. Then something shifted. A neighbor mentioned Jenna was working at a pediatric clinic. I checked. It was true, part-time, but steady. Weeks later, I heard from my aunt that Mom had started picking up the kids from school. Dad even helped fix Jenna's leaky faucet, something I'd usually be called for. They hadn't stopped needing help. They just stopped expecting it from me. For the first time, I wasn't the family wallet. I was just me, still alone most nights, yes, but no longer weighed down by silent expectations. It was a different kind of peace, one that tasted like freedom. It was a quiet Saturday when Jenna texted me, coffee? Just you and me. We met at a little diner near my work. She looked tired, but different, grounded. I was wrong, she said. No build-up. I used you, took you for granted. I thought if I needed something, you'd always be there. I never asked what it cost you. I nodded. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was just being real. A week later, Mom and Dad invited me to dinner, homemade food, no lectures, no manipulation. Halfway through, Dad said, we didn't treat you fairly. That's on us. Mom reached over and just said, thank you for holding strong. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Now I help when I can, not because I must. I fix the occasional sink, swing by with groceries sometimes, but I do it as a brother, not as a lifeline. I got my respect back, my home, my boundaries, and oddly enough, that's when we finally became a real family.